take a slow breath. Let the weight of the day soften. Here, in this quiet corner of words and wonder, stories unfold like incense in the dark, gently, without force. If you find yourself drawn to truths wrapped in human longing, you're in the right place. Subscribe and let the stillness speak. In a glass-walled apartment overlooking the restless pulse of the city, Sophie sipped her chamomile tea, her reflection flickering in the window. At 34, she was a marketing director, sharp and composed in boardrooms, but tonight her hands trembled. Across from her, on the cream-colored sofa, sat her husband, Ethan, scrolling through his phone, unaware of the storm brewing in her chest. Their marriage, once a canvas of late-night laughter and shared dreams, had dulled into routine. The bedroom, where they once tangled in passion, now felt like a stage for silent performances, mechanical, hollow. Sophie wondered if this was all love could be. 2 floors below, in a dimly lit bar, Sophie's best friend, Lila, swirled her martini, confessing to a stranger about her affair with a co-worker named Marcus. Lila, 32, was the life of every party, her laughter a magnet, but her heart was a maze of guilt and thrill. Marcus was married too, and their stolen moments in hotel rooms were electric, yet fleeting. She craved his touch, but hated the lies she told her friends, her family, herself. The stranger at the bar nodded, but Lila barely noticed. She was already lost in the memory of Marcus's hands on her skin. Across town, in a cramped office, James, a 29-year-old graphic designer, stared at his laptop, the glow illuminating his tired eyes. He'd been texting his girlfriend, Claire, all evening, trying to mend the rift from their latest fight. Claire wanted commitment, a ring, a future, but James felt suffocated by her expectations. Their sex life, once playful and raw, had become a battleground. Claire saw it as proof of love. James saw it as a demand he couldn't meet. He typed, deleted, typed again, unsure how to say he still loved her, but felt trapped. These lives, Sophie and Ethan's fading spark, Lila's reckless passion, James and Claire's clashing desires circle a shared question. What is good sex? Is it the heat of a moment, the promise of forever, or something else entirely? We chase it, define it, mourn its absence, but the harder we grasp, the more it slips away. In Buddhism, this chasing is dukkha, suffering, born of craving. The Buddha taught that our attachments to fleeting pleasures, like the rush of desire, blind us to the present. Sophie, Lila, and James are caught in this cycle, each seeking something they can't name. Sophie, staring at Ethan's distracted face, feels the weight of unmet expectations. She wants the old Ethan back, the one who'd surprise her with midnight drives and hungry kisses. But Buddhism reminds us that clinging to the past distorts the now. The second noble truth points to tanha, craving, as the root of suffering. Sophie's pain isn't just Ethan's distance. It's her refusal to see him as he is today. Lila, meanwhile, is trapped in the thrill of forbidden love, but her affair with Marcus is impermanent, like all things. The Buddha's teaching of anicca, impermanence, whispers that no moment, no matter how intoxicating, lasts. James, torn between Claire's vision and his own fears, wrestles with self-clinging, unaware that his ego fuels their fights. The doctrine of anatta, no self, suggests that letting go of rigid identities can free us from conflict. Yet knowing this doesn't erase the ache. Sophie still lies awake, craving connection. Lila still checks her phone for Marcus's texts. James still dreads Claire's next ultimatum. So how do we untangle these knots? Here are 3 ways to bring Buddhist wisdom into the bedroom and beyond, softening the grip of desire without losing the beauty of intimacy. First, practice mindful presence. In the rush to feel good, we often disconnect from the moment. Sophie could pause. Notice Ethan's small gestures, the way he hums while making coffee, and meet him there without judgment. Lila could breathe into her guilt, observing it without chasing Marcus to numb it. James could listen to Claire's fears without planning his defense. Mindfulness, as taught in the Satipatthana Sutta, anchors us in the now where true connection lives. Second, cultivate metta-loving kindness. The Metta Sutta urges us to wish well for all beings, including ourselves. Sophie might silently wish Ethan peace, even in their distance, softening her resentment. Lila could extend compassion to Marcus's wife, seeing her as human, not an obstacle. James could offer Claire kindness even when they disagree, easing their tension. Metta transforms intimacy from a transaction to a gift. Third, embrace impermanence. Accepting Annika frees us from chasing perfect moments. Sophie could see her marriage as a river, always flowing, not a fixed state. Lila might recognize her affair's fleeting nature, choosing actions that align with her values. James could view his fears as passing clouds, not truths, opening space for honest talks with Claire. The Dhammapada reminds us, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. These threads, mindfulness, loving kindness, impermanence, don't erase desire, but weave it into something less painful, more. The city hums outside Sophie's window, a distant reminder of lives moving forward while hers feels stuck. She sets her tea down, the ceramic clinking softly, and glances at Ethan, still absorbed in his phone. She wants to speak, to bridge the gap, but the words feel heavy, like stones in her throat. Instead, she remembers a moment from early in their marriage, a rainy afternoon when they danced in their tiny kitchen, laughing as they slipped on the tiles. That memory stings now, not because it's gone, but because she's been chasing its echo instead of seeing Ethan as he is, tired, distracted, human. Across town, Lila slips out of the bar, her heels clicking on the pavement. The night air is cool, but her skin burns with the memory of Marcus's last text. Tomorrow, same place? She knows she should say no, that each meeting tightens the knot of guilt in her chest, but the pull is stronger than her resolve. In the cab ride home, she stares at her reflection in the window, wondering who she's become. Is she the friend who listens to Sophie's worries, or the woman sneaking away with a married man? The contradiction gnaws at her, a quiet suffering she can't name. James, meanwhile, shuts his laptop and leans back in his chair, the office now silent except for the hum of the air conditioner. Claire's last message sits unanswered. Can we just talk? He loves her, he thinks, but the weight of her expectations feels like a cage. Last week, after another argument, they fell into bed, their intimacy a desperate attempt to mend things. It didn't work. Sex became a mirror, reflecting their distance instead of closing it. James wonders if he's the problem, if his fear of commitment is a flaw he can't fix. Buddhism offers a lens for these struggles, a way to see the threads of suffering without pulling them tighter. The Buddha spoke of the 3 poisons: ignorance, attachment, and aversion as the roots of our pain. Sophie's ignorance lies in her belief that Ethan must be her source of happiness, ignoring her own capacity for joy. Lila's attachment to Marcus blinds her to the harm she's weaving, not just for herself but for others. James's aversion to Claire's vision of the future traps him in a cycle of resistance, pushing away the very connection he craves. These poisons aren't unique to them. They're the undercurrent of every longing, every fight, every restless night. But there's a path through. Beyond the three practices, mindfulness, loving kindness, and embracing impermanence, there are three more techniques to untangle the heart's knots and bring clarity to love's chaos. These aren't rules, but invitations, gentle nudges toward freedom. First, practice non-judgmental awareness. The Buddha taught in the Dhammapada that the mind is like a mirror clouded by judgment. It distorts what we see. Sophie could sit with her frustration without labeling Ethan as cold or their marriage as broken. By observing her thoughts as passing waves, she might find space to ask him simply how he's feeling. Lila could notice her guilt without calling herself a bad person, allowing her to choose her next step with clarity. James could see his fear of commitment as a thought, not a truth, opening the door to honest conversation with Claire. Non-judgment, as taught in Vipassana meditation, clears the fog, letting us see others and ourselves more truly. Second, cultivate gratitude for what is. The practice of mudita joy and others' joy can shift our focus from lack to abundance. Sophie might notice the small ways Ethan still shows care, like leaving her favorite mug out each morning. Lila could find gratitude in her friendships, her freedom, her ability to choose differently tomorrow. James might appreciate Claire's patience, her willingness to stay despite their fights. Gratitude doesn't erase pain, but it softens the heart, making room for connection. The Buddha's teachings remind us that joy is already here, if we stop chasing what's missing. Third, act with right intention. The Noble Eightfold Path includes right intention, acting from compassion and wisdom, not ego or desire. Sophie could approach Ethan with the intention to understand, not to fix. Lila might pause before texting Marcus, asking if her actions align with her deepest values. James could choose to speak to Claire from a place of honesty, not defense. Right intention doesn't demand perfection. It asks for sincerity, a commitment to move toward what heals rather than harms. These practices, non-judgment, gratitude, right intention, aren't quick fixes. They're like seeds, planted in the quiet moments, growing slowly. Sophie might one night ask Ethan to put his phone down and they'd talk, not about the past, but about now. Lila might delete Marcus's number, not out of shame, but because she values her own peace. James might tell Claire he's scared, not to push her away, but to let her in. In these small acts, the bedroom becomes less a battleground and more a space for truth. The city's glow softens as dawn creeps closer, and Sophie finds herself still awake, the silence of the apartment both heavy and tender. She slips out of bed, leaving Ethan sleeping, his face softened in a way she hasn't noticed in months. In the kitchen, she brews another tea, this time pausing to feel the warmth of the mug, the faint scent of chamomile, grounding her. Last night, she tried something new. She didn't ask Ethan to change or fix anything. Instead, she sat beside him, shared a quiet moment, and asked about his day. His eyes met hers, surprised, and for a moment, the old spark flickered. Not a grand reunion, but a start. Mindfulness, she realizes, isn't about forcing love back. It's about meeting it where it leaves. Lila, back in her own apartment, sits cross-legged on her rug, her phone face down. She didn't text Marcus back last night. Instead, she wrote in her journal, spilling out the guilt, the thrill, the confusion. She asked herself what she truly wanted, not just from Marcus, but from herself. The answer wasn't clear, but the act of asking felt like a step toward freedom. She thinks of the Buddha's words from the Dhammapada. Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. Lila doesn't know if she ends things with Marcus, but she knows she wants peace more than passion. For the first time, she feels the weight of her choices as a chance to grow, not a trap. James, walking through the park at sunrise, feels lighter than he has in weeks. Last night he called Claire, not to argue or defend, but to listen. He admitted he's scared, not of her, but of losing himself. To his surprise, she didn't push back. She cried, shared her own fears, and they talked until the call dropped. It wasn't a solution, but it was honest. James thinks of anatta, the idea of no self, and wonders if letting go of his need to be right might make room for something real with Claire. He doesn't know if they'll stay together, but he knows he wants to try not for her, but for the truth they might find together. These small shifts, Sophie's quiet presence, Lila's honest pause, James's open heart, aren't dramatic resolutions. They're not the stuff of romance novels or gossip-filled brunches. But in Buddhism, the path to liberation is made of such moments, small and deliberate. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we cling to what's fleeting: passion, approval, control. Good sex, that elusive ideal, is just another fleeting thing, a mirage we chase when what we really seek is connection, not performance. The bedroom, the heart, the tangled threads of love, they're all spaces where we can practice waking up. So what can we take from Sophie, Lila, and James? Beyond the 6 practices, mindfulness, loving kindness, embracing impermanence, non-judgment, gratitude, and right intention, there's a deeper invitation to see desire not as the enemy, but as a teacher. The Buddha didn't condemn passion. He asked us to hold it lightly, to let it guide us toward wisdom, rather than bind us to suffering. When Sophie sits with Ethan, when Lila chooses herself, when James speaks his truth, they're not rejecting love, they're redefining it. They're learning that intimacy isn't about perfection, but presence. Not about getting, but giving. If you're lying awake tonight, caught in your own tangle of longing or doubt, try this. Breathe into the feeling, whatever it is. Notice it without needing to fix it. Wish yourself kindness, as you would a dear friend. And remember that nothing, not the ache, not the joy, lasts forever. These truths, offered by the Buddha centuries ago, are still here, waiting in the quiet. They don't promise a perfect bedroom or a flawless heart, but they offer something better, a way to be free, even in the mess of being human. If something in this story stayed with you, don't keep it quiet. Share it. Someone else may be waiting for just this kind of reminder. Subscribe for more stories where heartache meets healing and the unseen becomes known. Remember, even the darkest entanglements can lead us back to light.